On my wrist here today, I have a watch that truly is a legend in watchmaking. It's a watch that with every glance, I'm just locked into a level of ineffable enchantment. The watch is my Casio F91W. I picked it up for like 10 bucks. But we're not talking about that watch today. Instead, we're talking about, unfortunately, the Patek Calatrava, the 5119J. And it comes in at a retail price around $20,000. So what can you get for $20,000 from Patek? Is it worth it? Let's take a deep dive and take a look. So before we take a look at this particular reference of the Calatrava, let's take a look at the overall history of the piece itself and Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe is a Geneva-based watch manufacturer that has remained at the upper echelon of watchmaking essentially since their roots, which date back to 1839. However, the watch we have today is one that was conceived from an idea back in 1932. During the earlier part of the 20th century, Patek was not in the best state financially, as it was struggling to maintain any mass appeal with their watches. With the direction of Patek in question, two brothers, Jean and Charles Henry Stern, decided to jump in, to take the reins of controlling leadership of the brand. Two were heavily involved already with Patek, owning a company that were supplying dials for Patek watches at the time. And their answer to appealing to a more mainstream luxury market came with the release of the Patek Reference 96, the true originator when it comes to the Calatrava line. The watch shares many characteristics of Calatravas to this day, and was deeply inspired by Bauhaus design principles that was taking off during this period following the Bauhaus School of Design's formation in 1919. And now looking at the lineup of Patek Philippe watches today, seeing dozens of Calatrava models available with different variations, you probably can guess that it was a big hit and success for the company. And for watch lovers, there's always a different model that they might associate with the brand depending on what their preference is. But for me, when I think of Patek Philippe, I think of the Calatrava. And today we have a very classic example of this line of watches with the 5119J. The Patek 5119 line was first introduced back in 2006 and is an updated version of the 3520 design of the 70s and then of the 3919 models of the 1980s, both featuring the notable hobnail bezel and Roman numeral dial, with this one coming in 18 karat yellow gold. I will touch a bit more on that in a moment, but let's look at the dimensions and basic specs of the watch to start. For a resale price of this watch, we're looking at $19,730. On Bob's Watches website, we're looking at just under $14,000, and a big thank you to them for sending in this watch. If you're interested in this watch, I can link to it down below. Case size is 36 millimeters, a bit larger than previous iterations of this design, so boosting it up for more modern standards, but those modern standards I feel like are going down again, but 36, very wearable size. Thickness, 7.3 millimeters. Lug to lug, we're looking at about 41.5 millimeters. Lug width is 20 millimeters, but all considered a very wearable watch, especially when factoring in the straight lugs, but still a rather small size watch, but I mean, we are looking at an elegant dress piece here. And for reference, I have a 6.25 inch wrist, or for my friends that are using the metric system, we're looking at 16 centimeters here, just so you have a reference point to see how this wears. When wearing it on the wrist, it doesn't have much of a presence at all, which probably what you want from a dress watch, from at least my personal preference. To match the yellow gold case, the watch also comes with a black alligator strap with an 18 karat yellow gold buckle. Inside the watch, we have a Patek Caliber 215 PS, which is the sub-second variant of the Caliber 215. This movement is a manually wound movement having the dimensions of 21.9 millimeters by 2.5 millimeters and has a 44-hour power reserve and operates at 28,800 beats per hour. The movement features their Gyromax balance and their Spiromax balance spring. The 215 base was first introduced back in 1974, so it is a rather old movement, but maintains a classic finish featuring 5 bridges and leaves many of the inner workings of the movement exposed. But there are a couple weird things about this movement. One being the fact that in comparison to the case of 36 millimeters, the 22 millimeter movement is rather small. So it is not maybe the best fit for this watch. And then also we're looking at a very old movement. I mean, from 1970s, and it was in production far before that. So we're getting some older technology, which leads to a non-hacking movement. And for a watch this expensive, I can imagine there being some resistance there. It's a beautiful movement. Don't get me wrong there, but for what the price is, I think this would be my main resistance to see maybe some updated technology within the watch itself. Now moving from the movement, let's look to the front of the watch through the sapphire crystal, and we have arguably one of my favorite dials of any Patek on the market. The watch features a stunning lacquer white dial that is piercing when it is under light, without ever really being ostentatious, both of which I think can be contributed to its subtle black Roman numerals, a small sub-seconds that fits nicely at the 6 o'clock, and its black hour and minute hands that contrast beautifully with that white dial. The watch has such a classic design. For some, I could imagine this being a bit underwhelming, but there is no doubt you're looking at a piece that is timeless. In addition to the dial, we have perhaps my favorite feature of this watch, the hobnail bezel, which I think is more pronounced with this yellow gold version compared to its other gold counterparts, especially when you get this watch in the light. And when you have a closer look at this actual bezel here, you just see the level of finishing that takes place on it, and you get appreciation for it. And it's really one of my favorite attributes of any dress watch on the market. The crown features the Patek logo stamp, the Calatrava cross, a symbol with roots back to the 12th century that represented an order of knights in medieval Calatrava Spain. So just to interject my opinion here at the end, one of my favorite aspects of this watch is perhaps the point that might be a reason for the watch to foster up some detractors, but that is just the sheer simplicity of the piece itself. There's nothing about the design of this watch that is over the top. It is so understated that when handling it, sometimes I had to remind myself, oh, this is a Patek Philippe. It's just so under the radar, which you probably wouldn't imagine for a watch at this price. But whether that's a favorable or unfavorable attribute, I think it summarizes what this piece has and what it aims to do. Those who are buying this piece, and given its price, it unfortunately probably won't be me, are not looking for attention or approval of others, as I think this one only appeals to a sense of timelessness that is so far gone in today's world. And I think this is one of the most beautiful dress watches that you can find. Certainly not perfect, but truly an icon in the world of watchmaking. So guys, what do you think of this watch? If you have the money to afford this watch, if you want to throw it at it, love to hear your opinion. Or if you're like me who can't afford this watch, still would love to hear it in the comments down below. This is a range of dress watches. It falls in a range of dress watches that is highly competitive. And we have Vacheron in this range, Breguet, Lange, FP Journe with some of their models. Very competitive, a lot of different options here if you want to get a very elegant dress watch, but I think this one stacks up well against them. Of course, again, not perfect, but a very beautiful watch. I think it brings a lot of just timeless detail and design elements that I really like. But guys, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, big thank you to Bob's Watches for sending this watch. If you want to buy this watch or any other watch on their site, they're one of the largest online retailers in the world and a partner of the channel. So if you use the link in the description, any purchase is supporting the content that you're watching here. In addition, you can also head over to our website, check out all of our watch straps. We're gonna be adding a lot more in the upcoming weeks, so be on the lookout for that. And it's a great way to just help out myself and the channel and allowing us to foster up a new generation of watch lovers, really the goal of this whole channel. And finally, if you want to join our watch giveaway, fill out the watch giveaway form and follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be giving away a Casio Duro that will be this month's giveaway. I might be a little bit late in announcing it, but be on the lookout. Make sure you fill out that giveaway form and then follow me on Instagram to be eligible to win that. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.